As much as I'm excited about this newest upcoming character, there's always some kind of a catch, and in this video, I'm going to address the whole situation. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. This video is brought to you by Counterside. Now, this is a gacha game that's made for anime fans. The developers Studio B-Side have gained recognition for their amazing 2D graphics alone, since all characters feature gorgeous live 2D artwork, and the music as well as the story are carefully crafted so you can enjoy a high-quality game. In Counterside, you place characters on the field and they fight for you automatically, but there's a lot of depth in how you can control the battlefield, since every character belongs to a different class, like soldier, mechanic, or even a ship. And as someone who has played the game before, let me tell you, there's a ton of different strategies to try out, and I really like the story. It's definitely unique, since you rarely get to play as a boss of a corporation and experience some interesting moments. Also, the game is extremely generous with its gacha system, and you'll get to summon a lot of new characters. And right now, by using my link in the description, you can pre-register to Counterside, which is going to be available on both Android and iOS, but more importantly, you will also help support my channel with future videos. So make sure to pre-register to Counterside now. So I finally found out how to pronounce
Yelan,
and I'm happy to say that I completely butchered her name in my previous videos. But aside from this, the 2.7 livestream also revealed a lot of interesting details about Yelan. Actually, you know what? Let me just immediately address the whole fiasco regarding Yelan being the new 5-star Xingqiu. So, the main reason why she's so similar to the book nerd is that her burst works in almost near identical way. She summons her die that follows the active character around and deals coordinated hits which are triggered by either normal attacks or when her elemental skill damages enemies. And yeah, this is definitely very similar to what Xingqiu burst does. In fact, you could argue that the 4-star is actually providing more value here, since he also reduces incoming damage, which synergizes really well with shields, and you can even get healed partially from when the rain swords shatter. But hey, this guy has been with us since 1.0, and back then, no one knew, even the developers themselves, just how broken he will become later on in the game. But on the other hand, Yelan's skill is completely different when compared to Xingqiu's, as she can either do a short dash by tapping the skill, or hold down the button and enter a cool ninja dash mode, where she can mark the enemies, and when she ends the skill, everyone gets damaged. This looks like a really fun skill, and I actually want to know if she'll gain invincibility frames for the whole duration while she's dashing, which could end up pretty useful when going up against some nastier enemy attacks. Still, you and I both know that the biggest selling point here in terms of value is going to be her burst. You're probably tired of hearing this by now, but I've been talking about Hydro's dominance in team builds for the past half a year or so, and by having a nice little die following you around and unleashing Hydro application, well, this means you can basically build any team you want. Maybe aside from vaporized comps, whose viability are yet to be determined when Yelan actually comes out. But aside from all of this, what about the whole deal with her having a similar kit to Water Dude? Well, I have a couple of theories. Unlike the English livestream, the Chinese cast put a strong emphasis on Yelan being a damage carry, which to me sounds like her burst will actually have a strong synergy with Xingqiu's burst, and we might finally see a new team core created from these two characters. Because the last detail I left out was her charged attack, which can become a breakthrough barb after Yelan is swapped out for 5 seconds, which can then be charged up really fast and explodes for AoE Hydro damage. The cooldown can also be reset after triggering her elemental skill damage on enemies, and the more enemies are hit, the more likely the cooldown will reset. I'm not sure about the last part and how viable this will be, but knowing that you can also pack an additional punch from her special charge shot is a nice thing to have. I mean, to be honest, at this point, there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered once I can start testing her out, but for now, I wouldn't call her just strictly a 5-star Xingqiu, although it is tempting, especially considering both of them are rocking similar hairstyles. However, as with most 5-stars in the game, they are usually designed to be on the same power level at C0 when compared to C6 4-stars, so if it turns out that damage-wise, C0 Yelan is about the same or better than C6 Xingqiu, there's still things to consider like who's better at Hydro application, and what else she can offer when Xingqiu can also reduce damage and provide light healing. Or, you know, it might be that comparing them is just not going to be the focus here, and instead, anyone who has both of them will be able to build new powerful teams or enhance the ones that already exist. Now in this part, I want to focus on Yelan's potential strengths and problems that I'm looking forward to. I mean, saying that I'm looking forward to see what kind of problems she might have, probably sounds a bit weird, but it's really just me trying to keep the hype levels contained before somebody gets disappointed. And honestly, the biggest problem we've been seeing so far with new Inazuma characters are the absurdly high energy costs. Out of 14 Inazuma characters released so far, without counting Aloy, 9 of them have energy costs of 80 or above, while there's only 2 with energy cost of 70 and 3 with energy cost of 60. There was literally no character released with a burst cost of 40 besides Aloy during the Inazuma cycle. So, assuming this trend continues with Yelan as well, her burst cost may end up somewhere between 60 to 80 energy points, and I think it's important to acknowledge this possibility early, because on the livestream, it was revealed in several shots that her skill generates 4 particles of energy, which is pretty amazing, and if the cooldown isn't super long, she may be able to sustain herself if she's the only Hydro character in your team. But if there's anything we've learned with Xingqiu, then it's clear you'll need to dump lots of ER into her, and I'm talking about here potentially 200% by the minimum if she's the only Hydro and there's a Favonius weapon involved. In fact, it's very likely if you're going to play her as a support, Favonius or sacrificial bows could end up as really comfy options. And what's even better, you can easily get an unrefined Favonius warbow from just completing one of the story quests. So this will be potentially an easy to solve problem, provided we can fine-tune her energy needs. Now, the other big thing I've noticed was the weird passive she has called Turn Control, which increases her own maximum health by a certain amount, depending on how many different elements you have in the team. If this is anything like with Hu Tao or Zhongli, and we assume her damage scales with HP, then this means a couple of things. First, any bow that provides health or energy recharge from its substat will be really good for her, so that she can either power up her damage or optimize her burst energy, while the second, and more exciting thing, at least for me, would be that finally, artifacts with health substats and main stats are going to become valuable. In fact, back when Kokomi first released, I did farm up a couple of pretty decent artifacts that have health in them. So this seems like a really nice way to turn some of those niche or junk artifacts you get into actually viable pieces for Yelan. Also, don't forget that Emblem of Severed Fate exists, and if it works just the same way as with Xingqiu's burst, it's probably going to be really valuable for Yelan as well. Now that Sands or even Circlet with health main stat could potentially become viable pieces for her. I swear, almost with every update, this domain just keeps getting better and better. But yeah, that's basically some of my expectations regarding Yelan's build. It's pretty clear by now that even with small bits of info that were officially shared in the livestream, she's going to be a really interesting character with some caveats. But then again, almost every new character has had some quirks about them. The last thing I want to talk about are the Phase 1 banners. Hoyoverse yet again decided to put up a new character alongside a rerun, and this time around it's Xiao, who's back at it after only going missing for a few updates. This is honestly kind of strange, because I can tell you immediately, even without knowing Yelan's full potential, she's going to be the better choice to go for instead of Xiao, unless you really want to have an Anemo damage dealer. Obviously, I'm only saying this when it comes to value, since even at worst case scenario, she's going to be good at freeze and taser comps, solely based on her burst animations we saw during the livestream, and that already covers a big variety of teams you can build with her. Now, assuming you can also vaporize from her burst consistently, then this becomes even a stronger case why you'd want to go for Yelan instead of Xiao, if you care about things like the Spiral Abyss or challenging content. Don't get me wrong, I like Xiao. I know a lot of people also enjoy his character design and or playstyle, so if all you care about is fun over meta, then just go for it. Also, even if we assume you already have Xingqiu build, having more of what he offers is never a bad thing, especially considering the fact just how good Hydro is for team building, as I have mentioned this many times already in several of my videos. Obviously, if you've collected the majority of Hydro units already, then this becomes a bit of a different topic, but sadly, there's not enough data right now with all of the stuff that's still missing about Yelan, like damage multipliers and consistency of Hydro application, so that we could use to compare her with other Hydro characters you might have already unlocked. Honestly, as someone who is currently playing on my second free-to-play account, I will be spending all of my saved up Primo Gems just to obtain Yelan, because I still haven't got Xingqiu, and she'll be a valuable addition for my free-to-play journey, especially for the next few updates, since assuming 2.8 will only have Mr. Shikanoin, who looks to be an Anemo character, something that I can easily substitute with Sucrose, if all I need is to apply Viridescent debuff. Otherwise, the leftover characters are Ito and Kuki, which I'll talk about later in my next video, but for now, Yelan is definitely a high priority character for me, strictly speaking from a free-to-play perspective. And let's not forget that if we do assume her energy needs are going to be serious enough, then the free Favonius Warbow I unlocked from doing a story quest will be an even stronger incentive to go for her. All in all, I'd say this is one of the few double banners that are very easy to determine which one to go for, and as long as Hoyoverse doesn't get stingy with Yelan's damage multipliers or other mechanics, then she's going to be a very solid unit to go for beginners, especially those who still haven't got Xingqiu. But with all of that said, I hope you liked the video, and I know I haven't really talked about Kuki here, but I'm planning to make a separate video about her pretty soon. Also, thanks again for your support, and I'm sorry for the lack of videos. I've been sick for a while now, but I'm getting better, and I'm gonna come back with a ton of new videos once 2.7 starts. Anyway, thanks for watching, and see you soon.